My sister's name was Melissa Lands. She was 40 years old. She died August 30th of 2023. My little nephew's name was Blake Forrester. He died August 18th of 2022. They died 1 year and 12 days apart, both through fentanyl use. My mom found my little nephew dead in his bedroom floor. While I was at work one morning, I got the phone call to leave work. I was a preschool teacher, and I come home to the coroner calling my nephew's death. My sister was found dead in a hotel room where her boyfriend, who was a drug user, had left her dead in a bathroom floor while he stepped over her dead body, him and another female, for 15 minutes. While they took some drugs to their car, and they put more drugs in their car while they left my sister's dead body laying in the floor for 15 minutes before they called 911 to get help for my sister. By then it was too late. But the female did tell the courtroom, though, when she made her deal to get her 120 days, that she did put a cold rag on my sister's head to try and revive her. Well, a cold rag is not going to revive someone who's dead in the floor. My sister was an addict, but she was still my little sister. My nephew was an addict, but he was still my nephew. Sorry. My little sister and I were 11 years and 8 days apart. I was 11 years old when my sister was born. I was so excited to be a big sister. Sometimes I feel like as a big sister, I failed her. But the last time I seen my sister, she was on a stretcher in the hotel hallway. We were told we couldn't touch my sister because she was considered a crime scene. There's nothing worse than being told your sister's a crime scene and you cannot touch your sister or tell your sister bye. We never got to see my sister ever again after that day. After then, she was taken for an autopsy, to where then we went to the funeral home that we'd already been to the year before previously. The funeral home felt so sorry for our family. They didn't even charge us for my sister's funeral because they said they've never had a family member have to come a year later and do another funeral arrangement for the same thing they'd already been to a year before. So that was pretty pathetic, but that was very nice at the funeral home. My sister, even though she was an addict, she did her hair every day. She had her nails done every time at the nail salon. We had a beautiful white dress for her to be cremated in, and I had taken roses down for her. Unfortunately, not only was she left on her stomach to be left dead in a hotel room, but she also did not get to be put in that beautiful white silk dress because her autopsy was so rough. So she got to be, I feel like victimized again. And so we never got to see my sister again after that day of the hotel room. I call him the monster that he is, the one who kept feeding my sister fentanyl. She was also, I call it the mule. My sister was his mule. In 1 week, my sister was pulled over 3 times in a town for trafficking drugs for him. She was arrested that time. The 3rd time, finally, they arrested her. In that jail, my sister fell off the tunk bunk and she broke her hip. She sat in that jail for a month with a broken hip. They transferred her to the 2nd jail to where she was going to probably be sent eventually to DOC because she had broken her probation. That jail sent her to a hospital where she had a total hip done. So after having a total hip done, her and the drug dealer went to a hotel, which was not too far from my house. That's where she was found dead at, in room 121. I know my sister didn't get to the bathroom by herself because she couldn't walk by herself. The male and the female that was with my sister's body that day, they both were arrested for, not for her death, but for giving drugs and trafficking drugs. The female was supposed to have given 7 years, no more than 7 years, no less than 1. She did 120 days, and she's already out of prison. And we have that. We follow her, and they let us know what's going on with her. She's already got 1 probation violation, so she'll probably victimize someone else in the state of Missouri eventually. The male is supposed to have served 10 years, no more than 10, no less than 1. He gets out March of 2026, so he'll be back in Pulaski County to victimize more people because he's already let people be known he's going to be back down there selling his fentanyl again. So I feel for people's family, and I hope he doesn't do it to anyone else because no one's family should be sitting here doing what we're doing right now. But unfortunately, it happens. The prosecutor chose not to have my sister's death as a homicide, even though the coroner tried his best to get it rolled as a homicide. Because just like us and the person that did my sister's autopsy, we all know my sister didn't get to that bathroom by herself because she couldn't walk. She had to live done a week before. But it didn't matter. He's already made the statement he'll be back in Pulaski County selling fentanyl again. He's already made that statement be well known to everybody. He's sent the word down through people to Pulaski County. He's coming back to our county to do it again. Because in Pulaski County, unfortunately, we are one of the worst counties of charging people for deaths of fentanyl use and selling fentanyl and deaths. So he's coming back. We have a lot of deaths in our town of fentanyl use because our prosecutor doesn't charge people for selling and giving people fentanyl, and then they die. They just get charged for trafficking drugs or whatever, and then they get a little slap at the wrist and off they go. So a lot of counties will charge the dealer for the victim dying, but our county does not. It's the prosecutor in our town. He just lets everybody get away with it. It's a really sad situation. The coroner he carried my sister's death certificate around for 90 days trying to get it signed off as a homicide, and the prosecutor refused. I told my sister that day in the hallway of the hotel, I felt her as a big sister, but I wouldn't feel her as. I would be at that courtroom every day of their court, and I quit my job and I went to every time they were in court. I was there at the courtroom. I don't care if they were only going to be there for 10 minutes. I was there because I told her that day on that stretcher, we weren't allowed to touch her, but I sat down and I whispered to her and I said, I will always be your voice. I will always be your advocate. I might have felt as a big sister, but I won't feel you now in your death. So I will always, if the story saves one person's family from them having to go through what my family has went through, then I will tell my sister's story and shout it to the moon if I have to. Because no one should ever lose a family member to fentanyl use. No one should ever have to sit here and tell their stories like we have to. And I don't care if people don't understand. I didn't understand fentanyl use. I still to this day don't understand addiction all the way because I just don't. My mom has lost a grandson and a daughter. She raised my nephew, and she found him dead that morning. So I feel like my mom is my hero. My mom has buried 2 children in less than 1 year and 12 days apart. She's 76 years old. No one should have to do that. I had spoke to my sister a lot in the last year because we got so tired of dealing with her addiction. It wears a person down, and she was always doing something to somebody, and we just, you've lost time with that person when they're addicted because you don't want to deal with their addiction, and so you cut off ties with them. But I wish I had spent more time with my little sister because, now there's no time with my little sister. 2 days before she called me needing help in that hotel room, and I told her, I can't come help you, I'm sorry, because I knew I couldn't be in that hotel room with the drug dealer because we don't like each other. So my mom and my aunt went to help her. And, I thought, wow, as a big sister, maybe I should have went and helped her. That was the last time I got to see her before she was on a stretcher being zipped up in a body bag. No matter what, she was still my little sister. Whether she was an addict or she wasn't an addict, she was still my little sister. And I felt like I felt as a big sister to help her. But when you have an addict as a sister or a nephew or a mother or as a father, you get so tired of dealing with the addiction that you forget who the person is. But you got to realize they're not just an addict. They're still your family. So love them while you have them. Let them come to that dinner. Let them sit there even for 15 minutes and give them that hug and tell them you love them, because you never know when you're never going to be able to tell them again. If I could only tell my sister that I love her one more time and just have her sit there. For some reason, I always thought when my sister got to be my age in her 50s that she would be, I know it's a crazy thing, but she would be sober and we would take care of my mom together because my mom is getting older. And I always thought, we'll take care of my mom together when she's elderly and we'll go shopping together. We'll do the best things that sisters do. But instead, I'm telling my sister's story of her death and hoping it saves someone else so maybe they can shop together and they can take care of their mom together and not be doing what I'm doing right now, which is telling my sister's story of her death of fentanyl use. And if it just saves one person or one child out there, then it's worth telling because no one should be having to do this. Nobody. And you don't know how dangerous it is. It's not worth it. Addiction's not worth it. I still don't understand addiction all the way. None of us do. My mom don't. I don't. I had a son that was addicted. He told his story earlier before I was in here. I still don't understand. I don't understand addiction, but I'm trying to understand it. But it has torn my family up. Losing a nephew at 19. My nephew will never get married. He'll never have children of his own. There's so many things he'll never do. I tell my son, live and do the things your brother didn't get to do. Do the things your brother didn't get to do. My nephew and I were he was my best buddy. I used to call him Cinderella. It's a joke because half the time he'd be so hyper, he would have both his shoes on. He'd have like one shoe on and one sock on or vice versa. So I always nicknamed him Cinderella. I'm the only one that could call him that. And he called me every day. I miss his everyday phone calls, hearing his voice. He had been in a rehab for 4 days. I kept him in there for 4 days. He was an addict, but the rehab kept him for 4 days. We begged them to keep him longer. They chose not to. They said he was ready to come home after 4 days. I called his parole officer several times because he was put on probation for drugs. I begged his parole officer to put him in drug court, send him away for 120 days. Do anything you can to maybe get him off the drugs, give him some help. The probation officer, all he kept telling me was he was just writing a report. Well, I blame the probation officer a lot for my nephew's death. I blame the rehab for keeping him for 4 days. When you're on fentanyl, you need more than 4 days of rehab. I'm sorry, anybody would know that. 4 days. My nephew called the night before he died, and we talked for a long time, and I told him, I said, Blakey, I love you, but remember, you've only been out of rehab for 4 days. Don't do any drugs, because if you do, you won't make it because your body can't handle that. And he said, I know, Aunt Angie, I know. And he said, I love you. Remember, I love you forever. And I said, remember, my Cinderella, I love you too. And the next day I was at work, and my husband called me and said, Angie, they're doing CPR on your nephew, and they don't think he's going to make it. And when I got there, the coroner was there, and again, they told me not to touch my nephew because he was a crime scene. But I didn't care at the time. I touched my nephew, kissed him. He was in his bedroom floor. And my daughter, which is his half-sister, I've adopted 3 of my sister's children. She got to go in the living room, and she watched her brother be zipped up in a body bag. No sister should ever have to watch her brother be zipped up in a body bag, but she chose to watch. And I told her, that is a good way to not do drugs, is watch your brother be zipped up in a body bag. And she said, no, Mom, that is a good way to not never want to do drugs, watching your brother be zipped up in a body bag. And I said, that's for sure. And then a year and 12 days later, my sister's out there in the stretcher. Same thing at a hotel. But this time they tried to roll it as a homicide. But of course, our prosecutor blocked that one because the prosecutor in Pulaski County, he just doesn't care. I think he thinks it's another drug user just off the streets. And it's not just another drug user. It's someone's family. My sister had a family that loved her. I mean, we may not have liked the choices she made, and we didn't let her come to dinner a lot because when you're dealing with them, you just get so tired of dealing with them, and it wears you down. And she'd always promise my mom she'd be there, and my mom would get so excited and think, oh, Melissa's going to come over today, and then she would never show up. And my mom just wanted her to come over just for a few minutes and not be high and not be strung out, and she could just never do it. So, you would never invite her because she's not going to show up, and if she does, she's going to be high. Or like at my nephew's funeral, we had to have the police called because she brought the drug dealer who killed her. So the birth father of my nephew couldn't even come to the casket because the drug dealer wouldn't leave the casket. So it was an ugly scene, but that's the things my sister did when she was alive, Ugliness was involved, but, I realize now it probably wasn't her, it was the drugs. But, when you're dealing with that kind of thing, you just get tired of it, and it wears you down. And then after so many years of it, my mom and dad had been dealing with her since she was 14 years old. She was a good kid when she turned 14. She got into the wrong group. Peer pressure, I guess, is a huge thing. I didn't fall into peer pressure. My dad raised us with good values and morals, and just always said, if you're with a crowd of kids and you think they're doing the wrong thing, turn around and go the opposite way. Don't go that way. Don't make that decision. And my sister she always went that way, and I chose not to. I've never been in trouble. I've never done the things she's done. But we were raised with the same parents. My parents were married 38 years, a good Christian family. But it doesn't matter if you have a good Christian family, how high your income is. they do for a living. It could happen to anybody. Because I used to think, oh, that only happens to, poor people or, different counties or whatever. But you know what? It don't matter if you're a millionaire, if you're poor, it don't matter. Addiction can happen to any family or anyone. It happened to us in our house, and we had no idea our son was an addict. We had no idea for a long time he was an addict until the clues started coming in, and then I had to do CPR on our own child. And then I was like, I'm not going to enable you. You have to leave. And then he's been 9 months clean now. But hopefully losing his brother, and my sister has helped him too. He's found God. He's gotten baptized. I pray to God every day that he stays here and stays clean. We don't want the third one in our family to be gone. I don't think we're strong enough for that. Addiction doesn't care. It doesn't care who you are, what color you are, or anything. It takes over, and it's awful. It's just like a cancer. It just pours out, and it takes over a body, and off it goes. We were treated terrible. The victim advocate in our town is supposed to be the victim advocate for the family. She was so rude. I called actually and told them and complained about her and said she'd be better working on a factory with the can of canned goods than she would be working with family, because she's no victim advocate in Pulaski County. She is very rude. She does not care about the victim. She's supposed to take you to the courtroom and sit with you because you are the victim's family. She pointed to the courtroom door and told us where to go. Her name is Verna. And I wouldn't let Verna work with anyone ever again if I was at Pulaski County anything. She's very rude. She doesn't care about any victim's family. I guess to her, we're just the drug addict's family, and I guess she probably thinks we're scum, just like the addict. She probably thinks the addict is scum, too. But guess what? That addict there that died has family that actually cared about him. We may not have liked my sister's choices, but we still loved. My sister was still my little sister, and she'll always be my little sister. And I'll always be the big sister that feels like I failed her. But I didn't like my sister's choices, but she was still my little sister. I have a picture of her. I keep this on my bulletin board at home. This is my little sister. I was so excited to have that little baby sister. This is me holding her right after she came home from the hospital. I was 11 years old when I got that sister. So I always say for my 11th birthday, I got a baby sister, because we were 11 years and 8 days apart. And that was my best present that a mom could ever give a little girl, a baby sister. Because I was an only child for 11 years. I'm an only child now. And I might not have always had my sister around, but now I'm truly an only child again. And I always hear people talk about doing stuff with their sister, and it always feels so weird, because I'm like, wow, I'm an only child now again. And I'm like, that is so surreal, I didn't ask to be an only child, but I am now. So when my mom goes, my core family is all gone. I still have my husband and my kids, but the core family that you grew up with, my mom's the last link of that. And it'll just be me when my mom goes. And that is so weird to know that they'll all be gone. The day my sister died, I always thought, I told my mom, I always thought, I don't know why, even though she was an addict all these years, when she turned in her 50s, I'm 52, when my sister got to be my age, she was going to be sober, and we were going to take care of our mother together, and we were going to go shopping, and maybe it's just a wishful thinking, but I just knew that's how it was going to be, and I probably just think that now that she's passed away, but for some reason, I always hope that, that's how my sister was going to turn out to be. I've raised 3 of her children. My mom raised 1. My mom even has her cat. And that cat's, she can even take care of a cat. My sister was just not good at responsibilities. My dad always called her a little tornado. She just kind of spun here and there and spun there, but, that's just how she was. She could draw anything. She was a very talented artist, but she just wasn't good at responsibilities. But, she was a very friendly person. I mean, very beautiful person. Always did her hair, always did her makeup. Very friendly, but she just couldn't follow the law. Like my dad always said, even a stop sign's the law, but she can't even probably do that. That's just Melissa. She always just kind of did her own thing, unfortunately, and it led her to her death. If only it wouldn't have. But that's just who she was. And Blakey was her son that my mom and dad raised. He was the same way. He just kind of was his own person too. He loved my mom. My mom was his favorite person on earth. And my son, which was his brother that my mom and dad have raised, they were best friends. But he didn't like a lot of people. He had his very core family, and that's how he liked it. So for him to be an addict, you would have never thought, because he didn't really like to leave the home and go anywhere. So for him to be an addict, I always thought was would never have happened with Blakey. It was really weird. But my mom always wishes he always said, Nana, Nana, Nana. And my mom said she thinks she'd hear that 100 times a day. And now she would pay anything to hear those words again. Just like my little sister would call me and she'd always leave voicemail. This is your little sister. If only I could hear that on my voicemail just one more time. You don't realize sometimes that's the last time you're ever going to hear their voices, and they're never coming back. And if only you could have just 5 more minutes with them to tell them, hey, I love you. Even through your addiction, you still are going to love them, because even with that addiction, they're still a human being. And people need to realize even though they're addicted, they're still a human back there somewhere. And you have to remember that. I told that at Blakey's funeral. Please remember, you might have a family that's addicted, but through that addiction somewhere, your family member's still sitting there. They're still there. Don't forget that. Love them for what you have. Love them while they're there, because they may not always be there. Love them while you've got them. And remember that, because someday that hug, you may not be hugging them no more. You may be sitting at a graveside or looking at ashes like we do every day. You never know.